Hi everyone, this is Hardik from fuzzing.in. Thank you for watching my videos. In our last video, we have seen how can we use libafl. We have seen how can we use libafl's fork server based fuzzer to fuzz our damn vulnerable C program. And then we have also seen how can we use shared memory mode to get performance improvement. In today's video, we are going to see how can we use in-memory mode so that we get even better performance. Let's go ahead and see. So let's start with a whiteboard session again. And if you recall from the previous video, in case of shared memory, what happened is that whenever you want to fuzz a process, what fuzzer will do is that it will mutate the input and it will write the new test case to the shared memory. So this is the shared memory over here, which contains the mutated input. And then this first process, what it will do is that instead of reading the data from the file, it will actually read the mutated input from the shared memory. So this will completely avoid all the disk related operation, and that will improve the fuzzing speed. But there is a issue over here. Whenever this process initiates the execution, what fuzzer needs to do is that it need to again call the fork system call. And what this fork system call will do is that it will again create a clone of the process which we want to fuzz. So this happens every time. So this fork is still costly, and this is performance intensive. So we can even optimize this thing. Now, one thing to consider over here is that whenever you fuzz a program, you don't want to fuzz each and every line of that program, but you basically want to fuzz a specific function. Say for example, if you want to fuzz an image parsing software, then that software might have capability to parse EMF file, it can even parse GIF file, it can even parse JPG files, but you are not going to feed everything together. You don't want to fuzz EMF together, as well as you want to fuzz GIF file, as well as JPG and all kind of image file. But if you can target, like say you want to fuzz EMF file only, and then you want to fuzz JPG file only, then what you can do is that you can locate the function where the EMF file processing is happening, or you can probably call the function which are only processing the EMF file or a particular subset of the software. Then if you can identify that, then what you can do is that you can actually call those function. You can keep those function in the memory. You can repeatedly call them, and they will keep executing. Your fuzzer will keep executing those function inside the memory. So you don't need to call this fork system call every time you want to fuzz or if you want to pass any input. So you don't need to fork that, and that will save considerable time because fork is cost. So instead of like creating entire clone of the process, what you can do is that you can simply call the function which is responsible for parsing some file, or maybe kind of some API which you can call. You can simply give the input file, and then you will loop around. So you will keep changing the file contents, and that will significantly enhance your fuzzing campaign speed. So for that, there is a concept which is called in-memory fuzzing, and now we are going to see how can we use that with libafl. So let us go ahead and see. So here's a bit of theory. How does it work? Basically, in case of in-memory mode, so now let us understand how does in-memory fuzzing works. So in case of in-memory fuzzing, what happens is that your fuzzer don't need to call fork system call. Basically what it will do is that it will fuzz the function which you will give, and suppose there is a function which you want to fuzz. So what the fuzzer will do is that it will go to the start, it will mutate the data, it will let the function which you want to first process the data, it will monitor it for any crashes, any hangs, or any new code coverage, and then it will act accordingly. It will update the shared bitmap, it will save the crashing input to the crashes folder, it will save the hangs to the hangs folder, and once the function finishes the execution, it reaches to the end, it will again move back to the start, it will repeat the same cycle. So you can notice that this is very helpful for when you want to fuzz any single API, or when you want to fuzz a single function, then you can use this approach. And if you recall, this concept is present in libfuzzer. So if you recall, libfuzzer expects one function, that is llvm paste one input, where it expects two parameters. The first one is the buffer and the second one is the length of that buffer. And similar concept has been used by AFL as well, that is called persistent mode. And in that case, we need, if you recall, we need to use something very specific tag to AFL, that is AFL underscore loop, and we need to keep it inside a while loop. So you can give the number of execution. So if you are not comfortable with LLVM takes one input, how does it is used by libfuzzer, or what is AFL persistent mode, then I will suggest to go to my channel and look for the older videos. You will get those videos. I explained it over there. So the same concept has been used by libafl over here as well. And in case of libafl, what it does is that if we want to use the in-memory fuzzing mode, then we can straightforward we can use the libfuzzer harness, it should contains our fuzzer C file, right? The C program which we want to fuzz. It contains a function named llvm paste one input, and it is basically a libfuzzer harness. It will take a buffer and it will take the length. Now let us go ahead and see the source code of in-memory fuzzer and what are the changes and how it differs from the fork server and shared memory based fuzzer. So let's see. So as you can see, I am inside libafl and inside fuzzers directory, and the fuzzers which we are going to see now is generic in-memory fuzzer. So if we see the directory structure over here, let us start with the cargo.2ml file and let's see what does it contains. So you can see that inside the package it contains a name. It's the standard which we have seen in fork server based fuzzer, and there are feature which means it is standard. Then all these are specific to Rust actually. So there's a build dependencies, which means that CC the version should be 1.0. The number of CPUs is 1, and there is a libafl dependencies. So this is a path to libafl and libafl target, which means that we are going to use some features like Senko, PC guard, hit counts, and compare log and libfuzzer. So we'll be discussing compare log in the next video. We will be only focusing on libfuzzer as of now, and libafl cc. So if we are building the compiler, then we can write the compiler in the libafl cc directory. Then one important thing to note over here is the uses of clap. So as you can see, so it is using clap module, and it is being used to pass some command line argument to the fuzzer. We will be seeing it later on, and then the name and static lib. So we are basically going to create a static lib of that. So this is very simple. If you are familiar with the Rust, you can easily understand this. And now let us go ahead and see the file which we want to fuzz. So here you can see the source code of the fuzzer. Basically what I have done is that I have taken my libfuzzer example from my GitHub repo. I'll be sharing this link in the description section of this YouTube video so that you can download and you can straightforward use this. So I have simply taken that libfuzzer harness and I have copy pasted it over here. You can see that it uses a function called llvm fuzzer takes one input, and it will take buffer, which is the mutated data from libfuzzer, and the size of this data. Then there are some preliminary checks like size should be greater than 12. This is because if the mutated data doesn't contain header, width and height, then it is useless because it won't perform any operation. So that's why I'm simply checking it over here, and then I'm using typecasting. So if you don't understand this image structure and all these things, then please go back to my channel, look for older videos, and you will understand this program, what it does. And later on, if you will see that the rest of the code is same. Basically, there are a lot of vulnerabilities, as we have discussed many times in past videos. So you can see that this file only contains one function, that is LLVM takes one input. So basically this is a libfuzzer harness which I'm going to use over here. So with that, let us go ahead and see the source file, source directory, what does it contains. So you can see that it contains a clap config.yml file. So let us go ahead and see what does it contains. So you can see that this contains some configuration parameters which we can give to our fuzzer, like there is a cores, and which means that how many cores our fuzzer can use, and then there is a broker port. So this is how the master and slave will connect to each other. And, by default it is 1337. We don't need to make any changes to this file. It is just that I'm explaining all the available options. And you can also specify your remote broker address. We are not going to use that. Input, so this is important. We need to give an initial corpus which our fuzzer will use. We can actually specify it. So we can use this tag like dash input or dash input, and there is output. So it means that where all the crashes will be saved. So we need to give this directory. By default it will save it into the current working directory as it is mentioned over here. And there is a timeout. If you want to specify the timeout, specify it, or it will take by default, which is 10,000 milliseconds. Then token, so you can actually give some dictionary over here which contains some predefined tokens. It depends on the process or the software which you want to use over here. So that's it. And now let us go ahead and see lib.rs. So one major difference you will find over here is that there is no main.rs file over here. We are basically using lib.rs, and this is because we are not creating a separate fuzzer over here. What we are doing is that we are creating an executable which will contain all the code, like in case of libfuzzer, we will get one executable file, and when we run that, it will simply start fuzzing. So the same kind of approach has been used here. We will get one executable, and when we will run that, we will basically get actually a file which will start the fuzzing over here. So that's why it is a lib.rs, and there is no main.rs over here. And now if you go ahead and if you see the code of lib.rs, so these things are standard. As you can see, it is using clap, so it is using load yml. Basically what this fuzzer is doing is that it is using an yml file which has all the specific option like input directory, output directory, the number of CPUs, dictionary, token file, path, and all. So we can actually specify various options to this fuzzer, and this is a good thing. So you can actually port this to the previous fuzzer, focus on this fuzzer as well if you want. That will make it actually kind of generic like. So then you can see the boards. These are the standard boards over here. There is a random, there is shared memory, there is tuples, corpus is same which we have seen in our last video. There is event, there is the executor. So here the executor is a bit different. So this is the in process executor, and then there is exit kind, and there is time executor. So what we can do now is that we can go to the documentation and we can read that. Let us go and see the documentation for in process executor and exit kind. What does it do? So you can notice that I have opened the documentation for libafl, and one thing to notice is that make sure you check the documentation for the version you have installed. So in my case, I have version 0.6.1 installed. So we need to check the documentation for this. The latest version I think is 0.7. So there are considerable difference between these two versions, and if you search something in the latest version from this 0.6 version, you probably face some issues with that, because the documentation may not be up to date. So always remember to look for documentation for the version you have on your system. In my case, I have 0.6.1, so that's why I have opened this URL. If you want to check the documentation for latest version, you can simply check it by changing this to latest, and you will get the documentation for that. So now in process executor first. So let us go ahead and search what is in process executor. Hopefully we'll get something. So yeah, it is over here. Let us go ahead and see what does it actually means. So this is actually the in-mem executor, which simply calls a target function and then returns afterwards. So this is what I explained in the theory part. Basically, we will mention one function, which is LLVM takes one input. Our in process executor, it will call this function, it will let it process the input, and then it will return that exit kind. So what is exit kind? So let us go ahead and search for that. Exit kind here is that. So what it means is that it gives us detail on how an execution finished, and if you see it can be like okay means execution went okay, or execution resulted in a crash, or it resulted in out of memory, or it resulted in a timeout. So whatever the outcome is, we will get it from this exit kind. And now from the timeout executor, if you recall our previous video, it means that it will monitor it for the any timeouts in our fuzzing process. And then there is a crash feedback, max map feedback, map feedback. All these are from the older fuzzer. You can see that. So we are not going to discuss that. Only thing which I found different over here is that it is using a token mutation, and you will notice something like I2S R and replace and token. So let us go ahead and see what does I2SR and replace means. Go back and again search I2SR. Okay, it is over here. So what it does is that it basically replaces the random matching input to state comparison operand with the other. Basically it is used for compare log comparison, and we'll be discussing this in our next video, where I'll be explaining about compare log and how does it helps in fuzzing. We will discuss that, but right now just consider that it is used for compare log piece fuzzing. And then we have hit count map observer. So these are the observer components. Standard map time observers, there are different stages, and there is a state which is multi states over here. So in the previous video we are using a simple state, but here it is multi state. So let us again search and see what does means. So it basically it is useful when you want to display some cumulative info, as well as if you want to display some states based on a particular client. So this is, I mean, generally used to display all the stats. We are not going into much detail over here. It will be straightforward. And so these are the changes. And now one more thing you will notice over here is that libafl_target. So these are very specific to libfuzzer based harness. When you want to further libfuzzer based harness, you can use this. And if you search for libafl_targets and see what we get over here. Libafl. Let us do a Google. Yeah, it is over here. So libafl targets, basically it contains the runtime code injected in the target itself during compilation. As I have mentioned that we are going to use libfuzzer harness over here, so we need all this thing. So that's why it is using libafl targets over here. And then there is a compare log observer, there is compare log map. So these are basically used for compare log, basically when you have a compare instruction. So basically you can trace it out, and that will actually help with your fuzzing. We'll discuss this in next video. and then we have a libafl main function over. So you will notice that there is a no mangle over here. So if you see the documentation of no mangle, what it will do is that it will basically turns off Rust name mangling, so that it is easier to link. So basically when compilation happen, it won't mangle the name of the function and all. So this is why it has been used over here. And then you will see that it is setting up a directory, which is the current directory, and then it is loading the YML file. This is a clapconfig.yml file, which actually contained all the configuration parameter like input directory, output directory over our fuzzer. So it basically loads this file. Let me open this file and show you. So this is the file, right? If you recall, we have seen this file. So what the fuzzer will do over here is that it will load this file. It will parse all the available parameter over here. Like you can see, it is looking for course, broker port, remote address input and output, tokens, timeout, and all this parameter it will parse. And then basically it will print the work directory. Then these are the standard. It will use shared memory over here, and then it is using multi-state over here. It will basically print some states, and then you will notice that it is using a run client, and what it contains is that it is a standard state over here, and we can actually check the parameter. So let's go ahead and search. So you can see in the documentation, these are the parameter like corpus, input, random, feedback status, corpus, etc. Basically it is the state of a fuzz run over here. So this is what it contains. Then there is a manager and there is a core ID over here, and then it is taking AJS map and AJS observer basically to track the execution of the program, and it is creating one time observer, and this is something new. So basically it is creating a compare observer, and what it will do is that it will monitor for any compare instruction during the program execution, and based on that it can actually generate some tokens. So this will actually help in finding program paths quickly. I plan to create a separate video for that explaining much better, but right now just understand that it will just to do something with the compare instruction. And then there is a feedback state, and then there is feedback. So this is the same. Basically it will use time feedback, it will use max map feedback, and then there is the objective. We basically want to have a crash, or we want to have a timeout, and then it is getting the state over here. It's basically starts with a random state, I think, over here. Then there is an in-memory corpus, and then there is an on-disk corpus. This is basically used to save all the crashes on the disk. And this is used to have all the in-memory corpus, like whatever input file we have. And then there is tuple list. So this is the standard format, is same as book server based fuzzer. And then there is this this is a different thing where it creates a dictionary if it doesn't exist. So if we are given any token file, it will basically create a dictionary. It will use it for the fuzzing, and that will actually help it to discover new code paths very quickly. Then there's the scheduler. So it will basically decide how to select the input from the corpus. And then this is the standard fuzzer as you have seen in our last video. New scheduler, feedback, and objective. And then there is a harness function. So this is very specific to libfuzzer style harness. Basically what it is doing is that it is taking one harness, you can say function, and where it will take a input as a byte input, and then what it is doing is that it will basically taking all the bytes from that input, and it is basically using the slice. Slice is nothing but that you can actually say a copy of the provided input, and then it is calling this function, that is libfuzzer taste one input with the provided input, or with the mutated input over here, and then it will create one executor with our harness over here. So this is a timeout executor which actually is an in-process executor. It will use our harness, which is over here, and then it will use age observer, time observer. So this is the kind of standard thing which we have seen in our last video. And then they need to use a secondary harness over here as well because of some mute ownership. This is specific to Rust. So this is the same as what we have seen over here. There's no changes. And then it will set up a tracing stage. So this is specific to compare log, and basically it will try to monitor all the compare instruction as we have mentioned. So we are not going into much detail right now. And then there is a mutator over here. So this is basically specific to compare log. And there is a standard mutator. There is a havoc mutator over here. Then there's mutational stage over here. And then this is where it calls the first function. So basically what it will do is that it will call libfuzzer underscore initialize all over here with the provided args, and whatever argument we have given to our fuzzer, it will use that and will initialize that. And then if the corpus is empty, which is same as the last, it will basically generate some new corpus, and then it will load initial corpus. The first run, if we have given some corpus, it will load it from the disk, and then it is calling fuzzer.fuzzer. Now you will notice that all this is inside a single thing called client. So all this is inside this run client, and then you will notice a new thing over here, which is launcher. So basically what does launcher does, let us go ahead and see in the document as well. So basically it will use to launch a fuzzing run on a specific list of cores. So if we want to run our fuzzer on the multiple core, then we can use launcher, and what it will do is that it will bind it to a specific CPU core. It will run our fuzzer over there. So this is very helpful when we want to run our fuzzer, we want to run multiple instances of our fuzzer, we can use this. So you can see that it is using shared memory provider, configuration, specs, run client. So this run client is the variable which we just discussed over here, which contains all this thing. This is the run client, right? So it has everything, right? It will contain all the compare log observer, feedback, and date, and objective. It will contain everything over here, and the idea is that it will bind it to every specific it will bind it to given CPU core, so that you can run multiple instances of the fuzzer. And there is broker port and build, and there is launch. So this is a simple thing, nothing major change over here. Now what we can do is that we can actually compile this fuzzer, and to compile this we can run a simple command. It is cargo build. Yes, let me do a cargo clean actually, and then we will build it. So this build will take few seconds, maybe a minute or so. We need to wait. Okay, so you can see that our build has been finished. So now to run this, we actually need to use this command. It is a scene option is equal to abort on error is equal to 1, and the executable file, which in our case is fuzz underscore in memory, then the code. So we will give 0, is that we only want to run one instance. Then input is the input directory from which it will take the seed corpus, and the output, which is output directory where it will store all the caches and everything. So let us first verify if we go from seed corpus. So let us see. Okay, we have one input file which contains img over here, as you can see. So we have one input, and let me remove the output folder so that I remove all the data from the previous run. Okay, so now we can simply run our fuzzer by typing this command, and let's see what happens. So you can see that it started finding a lot of crashes, and you can see that there is some integer overflow over here, then there is some large memory allocation as well, there is a heap buffer overflow as well. So we actually found a lot of crashes. This, you can see that we are able to see the entire call stack over here, and this is like kind of libfuzzer, because we are actually using libfuzzer harness over here. So I'm going to cancel this now, and as you can see, we have found a lot of crashes. So what we can do now is that we can go to output folder and we can check. We will notice that we have found a lot of crashes over here. Now if you want to replicate, what we can do is that we can take our damvulnerable C program, and since this is a libfuzzer based harness, it may not work. We take our damvulnerable C program, we can compile that, and we can use any of this input and we can replicate the crash. Since this is a libfuzzer based harness, it won't have main function, it won't have the process image function, which we've been using in previous videos. So if you want to replicate these crashes, I will recommend you to go to the previous videos and check them and see how can we replicate this crash. That's all for today. So I hope that you have enjoyed this tutorial. I will request you to like, subscribe and share my channel. That will motivate me to create more such videos. In case you have any comment, question, suggestion, then feel free to post inside the comment section of this video. And you can also reach me out on the Twitter. Wish you all a very happy Christmas and enjoy your holidays. Till the next video, be safe. Bye. Thank you.